with a beard seated toward the back of the baritone section. In recent years, he's mostly stayed seated while the rest of us have hit the risers during practice. His name is Ed Crosley, and he's allowed. He's been doing this for a long time. Ed still sings with the chorus and with the matinee singers after 43 years with the Akron chapter. He may not move as fast as he used to, but he shows no signs of stopping. The soft-spoken man who will reach his 90th birthday this December has made quite an impact on the Johnny Appleseed district. Ed was named to the JAD Hall of Fame in 1978, Newsletter Editor of the Year in 1982, and JAD Barbershopper of the Year in 1990. Now, anyone who's actually aspired to greatness realizes the amount of sweat required. Ed makes it look easy. Here's a little of his story. He was born December 27, 1919, in Parkersburg, West Virginia, to a showbiz family. His own vaudeville experience started in 1928 at the age of 9 when he appeared with his mother, father, and sister in the Friars 1928 review at the Goodyear Theater in Akron. He continued to perform in the annual reviews until 1934 when he entered high school. Ed went to East High, where he sang with the a cappella choir. It was here that he teamed up with 3 other guys and sang as a quartet. They would perform in the Friars reviews from 1935 through graduation in 1938. He doesn't remember the name of the quartet, but the music was mostly jazz songs, which were popular at the time. In 1939, Ed graduated from East and applied to the University of Akron. At the outset, he majored in chemical engineering. However, he was unsatisfied with the curriculum and switched to mechanical engineering. While he was going to school, he also worked at Goodyear Tire and Rubber. Such a busy schedule allowed him no spare time, and he was forced to quit singing altogether. I have a footnote here. Ed is a baritone, so quit singing altogether. You do the math. While he was at University of Akron, he joined ROTC. This earned him a commission as a second lieutenant when he enlisted in the Army in 1941, and a trip to Camp Davis and officer training school. When Ed got his bars, he proposed to Billy. Quote, "A girl I went to high school with that sat beside me and kept bothering me all the time." They were married on January 6, 1943, before he went back to active duty following officer training school. When he went to Camp Eustis, now Fort Eustis, Virginia, Billy went with him. When they left Fort Eustis, he went to the South Pacific, Port Moresby's in New Guinea. She went home to Akron, where she gave birth to their first child, Kenneth. Ed served in the air defense at Port Moresby and was also attached to the 135th Philippine Army, 30th Infantry Division. Ed had a brief opportunity to sing with a chorus in a USO-type show in the local theater of operations, but nothing lasting. His barbershop years were still far ahead of him. Preparations for the invasion of Japan were underway in the Philippines at the time. Neither Ed nor his unit ever took part in it. While they were waiting, Fat Man and Little Boy took care of things for him. Ed was finally able to finish his degree in 1950 after 11 years. 2 changes of major, a war, a wife, and a son. While he was in the Army, Ed was a range officer and was required to take training classes for all the various machines involved in his job. When he was released and went back to finish his degree, he settled on electronics instead. He continued to work at the Goodyear, but switched to the Aerospace Division and joined the Army Reserves after his discharge. Okay, Ed, now he's out of the Army. Ed was active in his church choir for many years, the wife of Art Ruggles. Some of you guys remember that name.
Oh, yeah.
A member of the Akron chapter was also in the choir. Art pestered Ed to join the chapter, which was relatively new, chartered in 1945. Like most of the society at the time, it was quartet-based, but Ed refused because of his commitment to the choir. As fortune would have it, the director moved out of town and the choir was forced to disband. Finally, Ed allowed himself to be talked into joining the society as something to fill the void. He finally signed up in 1966 after working on staging for the annual Parade of Quartets for 2 years. True to form, he jumped right in, and by 1968 had become a chapter advisor, Cleveland chapters, and that was his first district post. In 1972, Gene Courts heard of Ed's experience in audio recording and approached him to take over the recording of the district contest. Together they did the first contest in Pittsburgh, and Ed continued until 1995 when he passed the reins to someone else. He was music VP from 1990 to 1995 and continued to serve on the JAD Board of Directors Music Committee until 2000. He can't stay out of some kind of office. While doing the recording for the district, Ed produced 3 vinyl albums for the district quartets and choruses. You wouldn't happen to have those around, would you?
I sure do.
That would be nice to bring them in so we could listen to them sometime. In 1978, Frank Buffington started what became JAD's premier music education forum, AppleCore. Ed was, of course, in on the ground floor at this innovative showpiece held on the campus of Kenyon College. Eventually, in 1984, Ed took over the administration of AppleCore, but he didn't limit himself there either. He was and is the district authority on copyright law, so he taught classes as part of the curriculum. Ed stepped down from his administrative duties in 2001, passing the baton to Herb Schreffler. In quartetting, Ed tells us that he was in a registered quartet known as the Crosstown Chordsmen, with Harvey Smith on lead, Glenn Weaver as tenor, Ben Shane was bass for a number of years. Eventually, Ben Shane moved out of town and was replaced by Joe Wagner. Then one day, the lead, Harvey Smith, decided to switch to baritone. Fred Glover was recruited for the lead spot, and suddenly Ed was out. This was just after he and Billy's 50th wedding anniversary, and that was the end of his association with singing in a quartet. And finally, Ed has been an active member of Akron chapter since 1966. He's packed a lot of barbershopping into 43 years and made his home with us. He has never held membership in another chapter. He has made a name for himself in the district and the society, raised a family, 1 son, 3 daughters, and just made it look so easy. The end.